A non-fiction book by Jeremy Auldaney. Mysteries of History Revealed. Dinosaurs to Extraterrestrials by Jeremy Auldaney. Copyright Jeremy Auldaney, 2014, all rights reserved. Table of Contents. Introduction, page 3, Chapter 1, Cataclysm in the Fossil Record. Chapter 2, Paradigm Shift. Chapter 3, Reestablishment of Civilization. Chapter 4, The Great Pyramid. Chapter 5, The Counterfeit Pyramid. Chapter 6, The Lineages of the Nephilim. Chapter 7, The Giants and/or Nephilim. Chapter 9, Origin of the Antichrist. Chapter 10, Cataclysms in Our Future. Chapter 11, The Plan of the Nephilim. Conclusion. 440 pages. 14-point type. This book is the fulfillment of Bible prophecy, that knowledge shall be increased. Truth is stranger than fiction. I cracked the Vinci Code and reveal the Nephilim lineage. This book will turn your world upside down and will get to the bottom of things that have been hidden, revealing the real Holy Grail. Introduction. The truth is always upriver. To find it, you must go against current beliefs. I have discovered many things in my travels and research, discovering fossils, fossil sites, meteorites, meteorite craters, archaeological artifacts, UFO encounters, and historical geology, as well as library research and field research and internet search for obscure facts, which all fit a unified picture of history. This book is a record of those discoveries. But while writing it, every day I discover numerous amazing new pieces that fit the picture puzzle of world mysteries hidden from most people. I have found many shocking facts that have caused me to update and reinterpret my beliefs about the world and its history. I have discovered the answer to most of unexplained mysteries of the world. Schools, universities, seminaries, books, the media have all passed on misinformation from ignorance and deliberate disinformation. We are living in an age of ignorance, which has access to all the knowledge in the world at our fingertips on the internet. No matter what you believe, you will be shocked as I was, and will be offended at some of the things I have found as I was, but they are not my beliefs, they are facts of history. You will also find conclusions you agree with. I have discovered in the course of organizing the thousands of facts confirmed from many unrelated, unbiased sources of information hidden in dark corners of science, history, and the Bible. The central truth I have researched are two major facts overlooked and ridiculed or ignored by most people, and I show how they are essential to understanding world mysteries. Ignorance and disinformation of these facts has prevented people from understanding the Bible and the facts of science. No one could explain my theme better than Dr. Henry Morris. Here is his comment on the origin of the giants or Nephilim, which the Bible says caused God to destroy the earth in the flood. Dr. Henry Morris, founder of the creation science movement and the Institute for Creation Research, says in his book, The Giants of Old, Part 2, and The Genesis Record in 1976, quote, "The only obvious and natural meaning of the designation Beni Elohim, sons of God, is that these beings were sons of God rather than men, because they had been created, not born. Such a description, of course, would apply only to Adam, Luke 3:38, and to the angels, whom God had directly created, Psalm 148, verses 2 and 5, and Psalm 104, 4, and Colossians 1, chapter 1, verse 16. Whenever angels have appeared visibly to men, as recorded in the Bible, they have appeared in the physical bodies of men. Those who met with Abraham, for example, actually ate with him, Genesis 18:8, and later appeared to the inhabitants of Sodom in such perfectly man-like shape that the Sodomites were attempting to take these men for homosexual purposes. The writer of Hebrews suggests that on various occasions some have entertained angels unawares. Hebrews 13, verse 2. Quote, continuing, "It is true that the Lord Jesus said that in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven, Matthew 22:30. However, this is not equivalent to saying that angels are sexless, since people who share in the resurrection will surely retain their own personal identity, whether male or female. Furthermore, angels are always described when they appear as men, and the pronoun he is always used in reference to them. Somehow they have been given by God the capacity of materializing themselves in masculine human form when occasion warrants, even though their bodies are not under the control of the gravitational and electromagnetic forces which limit our bodies in this present life." End quote. Henry M. Morris, the Genesis record in pages 247 to 249, describes the post-flood cataclysm event in the days of Peleg, ignored by most creation and secular scientists, and the continuing battle to save this earth. Quote, Henry Morris, "Peleg used here means earthquake. Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible, McDonald Publishing Company, McLean, Virginia, Hebrew Chaldee Dictionary, on page 94. Geologists today have generally concluded that the continents were once connected in one giant supercontinent they have named Pangaea. Computer imaging has shown how all the continents appear to fit together. As an example, the eastern shores of North and South America conform to the western shorelines of Europe and Africa. Geologists have named this continental drift theory. They conclude that from the contour of the continents fitting so perfectly together, the rifts in the ocean floor, and the present measurable movements of the continents, that in the past, at some time, the continents were one large land mass." All of these evidences, continuing the quote, all of these evidences lead to the conclusion that if the continents did divide, this dividing could have occurred in relation to the division of the languages after the Tower of Babel. Possibly sometime after the migrations caused by the confusion of languages, when the people were sufficiently dispersed, God caused the continents to move apart. This would account for man and animals being on isolated continents of North and South America and Australia. There were people on the continents when they moved. It appears that God not only divided the people by confusing their languages, he also divided the land so that this dispersion would continue. This division of the land precluded that the people on earth could have physically come back together had they been able to overcome the language barriers. Continuing the quote, "It is also interesting to note that this event was some 5 generations after the flood. Many of the geological mysteries which are difficult to understand in relationship to the flood could be explained by a second worldwide catastrophic event, such as would be caused by the sudden global shifting of continents. Great earthquakes, volcanic activity, uplifts, flowing and shrinking of vast land areas, and mountain forming would be expected to accompany such vast changes in the Earth's surface." Chapter 1. Cataclysm in the Fossil Record. This is page 6. This book is a time machine in which we will get glimpses of facts, events, and people in history. Geologic evidence indicates that the Earth was bombarded by asteroids. Here is what such an event would be like, and scientists' conclusions. when compared to the events of geologic history. Collision Earth, The Threat from Outer Space, by Jason Jeffrey from New Dawn magazine, published 2004. Quote, recent computer simulations reveal that if a comet or asteroid hit the Earth on one side, the seismic waves generated would be transmitted through the planetary interior. By being focused on the account of the Earth's curvature, the waves would meet together at the location directly on the opposite side where the impact took place, and the high-stress energy released could disrupt the surface area, causing a tremendous outpouring of volcanic activity. Author's note. Could this have been the cause of the supervolcano at Yellowstone? Which, by the way, is erupting right now. All the geysers are erupting at once. Continuing the quote, the air blast resulting from an impact would lead to large-scale and worldwide pressure shock waves oscillating the entire atmosphere and ionosphere, creating winds greater than the most powerful hurricanes ever recorded. By far, the worst-case scenario is an asteroid or comet striking one of the world's deep oceans. Some researchers worry the sudden displacement of such large volumes of water across thousands of kilometers of ocean would affect the axis, spin, and polar stability of the Earth, like adding an off-balance weight to a spinning gyroscope. Even more disastrous would be a celestial object furrowing into the ocean at a more oblique angle. In this case, the energy of the mass dissipates by pushing a titanic amount of water over a large surface area, creating tsunami waves so high and large in size as to defy imagination. Fragments of the asteroid hurled into space by the impact would rain down all over the planet, setting forest fires. The resulting smoke would further darken the atmosphere, plunging the world into permanent night. The temperature would plummet. Mounting hard evidence collected from tree rings, soil layers, and even dust that long ago settled to the ocean floor indicates there were widespread environmental nightmares in the Near East during this period. Abrupt cooling of the climate, sudden floods, and surges from the seas, huge earthquakes. End quote. Extinction of the dinosaurs. Russian Journal of Earth Science, Volume 10, ES 6006, DOI 10.2205, 2008, East-South by 000304. In 2008, titled Metallic Iron in Sediments at the Mesozoic-Cenozoic KT Boundary by D.M. Pechetsky, Schmidt Institute of Physics of the Earth, Russian Academy of Sciences, Moscow, Russia. Some ET boundary sites have metallic iron, ferrous iron hydroxides, magnetite, and titanamagnetite. Samples at other sites do not have metallic iron with the iron hydroxides and or magnetite and titanomagnetite. Mesozoic-Cenozoic KT boundary in Gams, Austria. In the Gams section, metallic iron is present only in the upper and lower parts of this layer. Spherules of metallic nickel iron distributed over the Earth's surface is very non-uniform near the KT Cretaceous-Tertiary boundary. A small amount is of terrestrial origin, is found with mostly terrestrial iron. The odd connection between the accumulations of these particles from different sources containing iron hydroxides, magnetite, and titanomagnetite, and metallic iron remains unexplained from a secular viewpoint. It appears to show a connection between an impact and volcanic eruptions followed by deposition by water. Correlations between concentrations of terrestrial iron hydroxides, magnetite, and titanomagnetite and extraterrestrial metallic iron stems from the changeable role of deposition in accumulation of these minerals in sediments. Conclusions. Analysis of data on sediments close to the KT boundary reveal a correlation between iron hydroxides, magnetite, titanomagnetite on the one hand, and metallic iron, which comes from meteorites, by the way, on the other. That is a correlation between the minerals with very different origins. They came from different sources. Of several explanations of this phenomena, primarily extraterrestrial, primarily terrestrial, and secondary oxidation by water. The extraterrestrial origin of metallic iron is the most likely one, and the observed pattern of variable positive correlations between the accumulation of iron hydroxides, magnetite, and titanomagnetite and metallic iron results from the different role of deposition and accumulation of these minerals, which means much of the materials was from both terrestrial and volcanic origin as well as extraterrestrial impacts, then deposition by water. Thus, an asteroid triggered massive volcanic eruptions transported and deposited by water. Fossil record shows worldwide cataclysms. All the different fossiliferous strata, Jurassic dinosaurs, large Pleistocene mammals, Permian reptiles, as well as marine fossil strata can be found on every continent on Earth, with the same fossil bones and tracks in the same kind of flat rock layer. Each type of fossil is often found in a unique type of rock that is characteristically the same worldwide, with some exceptions. Also, all fossiliferous rock contains evidence of massive, sudden deposition by massive floods of moving water and flowing mud, with massive evidence of volcanic eruptions dwarfing the largest known today, occurring on a worldwide scale. Rapid deposition of sedimentary rock. Also, we know from observation that all fossil deposits are in sediment, which has to be deposited rapidly by water. Sediment means deposited by water, and water does not carry sediment unless it is flowing rapidly. The larger the material, the faster it must be moving. Alluvial deposits, wind deposits, are claimed to be deposited by wind as sand dunes, like the Coconino Sandstone and the Navajo Formation. But these deposits have mud cracks and ripples, as well as cementation that could not occur in deposits on dry land. The moving water sorts fossils and the surrounding sediment called the matrix. We also know that dead animals cannot remain on the surface without being destroyed by scavengers and decay, so they have to be buried in hours or at most a few weeks, and we know that most fossils are replaced or encased by volcanic minerals, or they will not survive even if they were buried rapidly, except in the case of being sealed in oxygen-free layers. But even then, they still need to be preserved by replacement, petrification, or by being permeated, permeabilization, with volcanic minerals carried by water. Rapid deposition of volcanic rock. Then we see volcanic rock. This has to move rapidly as lava or hot mud. None of these are slow-moving processes. Days, weeks, maybe months, but definitely not millions of years or even a few years. This observation is true science. You could say, well, then the fossil record is of rapid events over long periods of time. If this were true, there would be large erosional surfaces between these layers deposited millions of years apart. Nowhere do we see surfaces like we see in today's world. Most of the layers are level, with very little uneven surfaces. On these, fossil ripples or tracks are sometimes found. This is a first of a series, and we're ending on the about the last third of page 9.